I'm Mark Dawson from the Self-Publishing Show, and this is Self-Publishing Spotlight, where we shine a light on the indie authors who are changing the world of publishing, one book at a time.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Spotlight. We meet indie authors at all stages of their careers and ask them a series of 5 questions. 5 questions about their process, their mistakes and their successes. 5 answers that will help you level up your own author career. My name's Tom Ashford and I'm part of the Self-Publishing Formula. Don't forget that you can get your self-publishing resource kit at selfpublishingformula.com/starter kit. This week's guest is Rachel Rawlings. She's written 9 books in the urban fantasy and paranormal romance genres, and she lives in Tennessee. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you on. Do you want to start by going through the 9 books that you've got?
Sure. So I have a couple different series. The first series that I released, my Mara and Kincaid series, has 6 books and a couple shorts. And then from there, I released the Jax Rhodes series, which is actually a duet more than it is a series, and has 1 novella spinoff, A Soul to Keep. And then we have, Rotten Luck, which is a standalone, and the Touch of Ink series, which is 2 books out right now, will be 3 total. And that is Ink It Over and Better Ink Twice.
Nice. Sounds great. Okay, well, if we dive into the questions, the first one's a biggie, which is, why do you write? So I guess, was there a particular reason that you went into urban fantasy and paranormal romance, or was it just writing in general that, inspired you? Or
I've always written. I mean, I did a lot of writing when I was younger. I started with poetry and I had notebooks filled with incomplete stories through middle school and high school, and eventually grew up, got married, had kids, and all of that kind of stuff just fell by the wayside. And then one day, it was always back in the back of my mind, like I really wish I had completed those stories. I really wish I had done something with that. And as a parent, you're always telling your kids, well, you can do anything if you just put your mind to it. You can be whatever you want to be when you grow up, and you tell them all these things. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, well, I didn't really do that, though, did I? So then I just buckled down and started putting the books out.
Nice. And why the choice of genres?
I myself am a little strange and unusual, and so I think that is kind of what appeals to me. I always have had an interest in, fantasy. For me, reading when I was younger, it was Tolkien and Choose Your Own Adventures, and getting older, Anne Rice was a huge, author choice of mine, that one of my go-tos, and then it became Kim Harrison and Patricia Briggs, and so it's just some of my favorites and what I gravitate towards. Even with movies, I'm the same way. Like, the first movie I ever saw was The Last Unicorn. That was like the first movie I can remember ever seeing at the movie theater, which may date me a little bit for the listeners out there, but that's okay.
Nice. And did you want to pursue a traditional contract at first, or did you know that you always wanted to go indie?
I don't know that I put that much thought into it. I think I was really just more, I'm going to finish this book and show my kids that you can. And then when I was finished writing it, KDP was in its early stages, and I thought, okay, well, this is cool. I can make a book and put it out and, just have it for family and friends. And I really didn't ever intend to do, really more than that, because that for me was the accomplishment. I was like, I completed it. Here it is. It's physical proof that I did it. And so I think after that, it just kind of gravitated towards being indie.
Nice. Well, question number 2 is, how do you write? So do you plot your stories out, or do you pants them, as they say?
I'm a pantser on the road to recovery. I so desperately want to be a plotter. I have had planners and, different workbooks, and whenever there's a course that's like even remotely related to plotting, I'm like, oh, I should take that. I'm going to do that. And yet I still end up being the first reader. I feel like the characters always end up taking a left turn in Albuquerque. I never know what they're going to do next. And it just always seems to, the best laid plans, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
So it never seems to work out that way for me, no matter how desperately I would love to be a plotter. And I see all of people's, beautiful vision boards, and I'm like, oh, I want that for myself so much. And still a pantser.
How long do your books generally run?
Anywhere between 60 and 90,000.
Okay. Because I think if it's like a George R.R. Martin epic, it's usually plotting's usually the way to go.
Yes. I think you're right that I can get away with it because it's definitely not. I'm not breaking over those like 120,000 word marks.
Yeah. Is there a particular software that you use, like Scrivener, Word, that sort of thing?
I still use Word. I'm pretty old-fashioned. I'm a little bit of a troglodyte when it comes to technology. Honestly, I'm usually relying on my husband, for that. I know enough to be dangerous. So Word is great for me because even when it does updates or different things, it's still the familiar.
Yeah. And is there a particular time and place that you prefer writing?
Place is I'm usually at the kitchen table, honestly, especially since we just moved. Not that long ago, we were East Coast in Maryland, and I had a little kind of writing corner set up. But since we've moved, now it seems to be more the kitchen table, coffee always nearby. And it is usually around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And the house is quiet, my husband's off to work, the kids are still asleep, and I feel like I can get my most productivity like that time of the day.
Yeah, fair. I don't know if I'd be productive at that time of the day.
You get used to it.
Yeah. Okay, well, question number 3 is, are you a full-time author? If you are, how did you get there? And if you aren't, what steps are you taking to make it happen?
I am. That's an interesting question. So I wasn't a full-time author a couple years ago because I was still working full-time running family businesses. We had a couple flash floods, like natural disasters, back to back. So we ended up having to close the business. And then I decided, okay, well, this is it. Maybe this is a sign like that. It's time to really buckle down and make this the career that I want it to be at this stage. So in order to make that really happen, I'm doing a lot of PA work, which supplements the income that I used to have. And really honing those skills while I'm working with other authors to help them advance their careers. I feel like at the same time, I'm honing skills that I'll be able to utilize for myself when I'm back in a position to be able to go full time.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a little bit of a throwback question here, but in terms of your urban fantasy and paranormal romance, do you find that you get a lot of sort of crossover between audience there?
Oh, I definitely think so. I think that, sci-fi fans, romance readers, I feel like people read a lot of different things, and they cross genres even when they don't realize it, because so many genres have blended or have subgenres, and there's all these little niche things that we've really kind of seen explode, I think, within the indie world too, or maybe we're all just becoming more aware of it. They've always been there, but now we have all these categories and keywords and all these things that were becoming more to the forefront for all of us, so we're more hyper aware of it. But I think readers read far more genres than we give them credit for.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, number 4 is, what mistakes do you think you've made and what have you got right?
Oh, I've probably made all the mistakes. From not doing really the due diligence that I should have in the early stages with editing and really understanding what resources there are available within the indie community. We've come a long way since the heydays of like 2009 when indie publishing was really kind of taking off. And there's so much more available today. And I think that leads into what I've gotten right, which is not quitting and continuing to learn, still taking the classes to hone the craft, whether it's writing itself or marketing. There's just, as you well know, from where you are, there are some amazing resources out there. And I think staying aware of that is one of the things I'm getting right, like making sure that I'm in the know.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of
things like live shows and conferences and things like that. Often it's the networking and sort of building relationships and learning from the other people as much as actually learning things from the sessions themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah. Okay, well, question number 5 is, what's your final piece of advice for authors starting out in indie publishing?
Write something every day. I think we should look at it like it's work, but it's also a habit, and we need to, kind of that muscle memory. And I think, one sentence turns into one paragraph, which turns into one chapter, which eventually turns into one book. And it's okay if it's a dirty, ugly copy when you're done with that first draft. That's perfectly okay. I feel like any author you talk to is going to tell you that they hate it when they finish, or have hated it throughout the process. I don't feel like we love it until it's been edited and polished and perfect, and that's not what your first draft is for. So just keep pushing through that first draft, and the rest will come.
Yeah, the hard bit is getting the book down in the first place.
Yes.
Awesome. Those are your 5 questions. Thank you very much for coming on, Rachel.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
That's it for this week's Self-Publishing Spotlight. Don't forget that you can get your free self-publishing resource kit at selfpublishingformula.com/starter kit. And if you want to appear as a guest on this show, send us brief details about yourself and your writing at selfpublishingformula.com/spotlight-guest. I'm Tom Ashford, and I'll see you again next week.